You can only produce out of what is put in your mind. That's just real logical. You know, the old expression, garbage in, garbage out, or good stuff in, good stuff out. There is nothing. What else can you do? See, they teach in the world and amongst spiritualism, and some now are believing this in mainstream society in our culture, that somehow you come here having the wisdom of the ages, having the cumulative knowledge of the species, or some other crap like that. You know, people say this all the time. There are people that believe this, that teach this, that somehow you have genetically within you all this stuff in your mind. Look, you may have instinct. We have certain autonomic nervous system things. There are certain things that happen that you don't consciously think about. Your heartbeat, breathing, certain other systems within the body. But man, when it comes to knowledge and utilization of knowledge, it's based on what is in your mind. Your parents teach you stuff, friends teach you stuff, enemies teach you stuff, teachers teach you stuff, and all kinds. You know, we get all this information because someone teaches us. Like kids with tennis, when you think about some of the kids that started off really young with tennis and how their parents put the racket in their hand when they were 4 years old. One person, they gave them a racket and a ball, and they were bouncing the ball against the wall with a tennis racket at 5 years of age. That puts some certain muscle memory into that person, so then their kid is a tennis player, and they go, see? You know, they genetically ended up with the same, oh, please. They may have genetically ended up with certain muscle groups that were stronger or more, I don't know if you'd use the word developed or if you'd use the word, I don't know what word you'd use, and I don't care right now. Because this is census stuff. But yes, there are genetically, there may be certain mental abilities that are there because of genes, because of dominant gene groups or whatever that means. Certain soma type or body style or type. Certain muscles are longer or bone structures that are, bigger or whatever. That has nothing to do with the mind, other than perhaps genetically the mind being able to grasp or hold more, one person's mind, because of certain dominant characteristics. But when you think about scientists saying we only use 10% of it anyway, what difference does it make if you start off with the mental capacity of Einstein or not? What if he only used 10% of his? So what if a believer could be taught and learned by the Word to use 20%? You'd still be smarter than Einstein. Of course, any believer is smarter than Einstein anyway, because he didn't get born again, as far as we know. So yeah. As a matter of fact, you're smarter than Einstein right now because Einstein's dead. Where were we? Renewed mind. Jesus was God's plan for bridging the gap between the natural man and the spirit world. We know by believing that which is spiritual. But it is demonstrated in the natural world when we act upon our faith. We can't know the spirit world by senses. They're two different worlds, any more than we can know what's on an FM station by listening to AM. Great. Reason holds the same relation to the spirit that the body does to reason. We know that God is spirit and that he reveals and impregnates our spirit with truth. The spirit that we have inside, that was a gift of God, Christ in you, the hope of glory, it gets impregnated with truths. Even as the natural world can impregnate the mind with facts. How does it do that? From your natural senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Well, since it's Christ in you and it's his eyes behind your eyes, nose behind your nose, mouth behind your mouth, toes behind your toes, ears behind your ears, then by your quote-unquote spiritual senses, you receive information. It's how we, because of how God set up the body and the brain to receive, synapse and all that stuff, it's how we get the information in such a way that it will teach our mind. God, remember the great principle? God's Spirit teaches his creation in you, which is now your spirit, and your spirit teaches your mind. Then it becomes manifested in the senses realm as we act. Well, the way the Spirit teaches your mind is the same method or scenario like as the senses teach your mind. The difference is the source. The source comes from the Spirit. First of all, God, and then teaching His creation in you, your spirit. Whereas sense, knowledge, facts, information in the world comes through the literal 5 senses, physical senses. But you receive the revelation along the same lines as you receive sense, knowledge, facts. So you understand it. Otherwise, you receive revelation, you don't understand squat. It just reminds me of how, when I think about this, of how the devil spirit realm is always endeavoring to give people information, but most of the time, it starts off being some kind of hazy, foggy kind of, I'm feeling a presence kind of stuff. Or, the wisdom of the ages is within you. Really? The wisdom of the ages is within me. What does that mean? Right. Or they go to someone, the person says, just stay on the path. So, just stay on the path. It just leaves more questions than answers. Of course, one of our tremendous believers had been in that field, that psychic field, parapsychology field, and he said that, they'd give a little bit of information, but it was always more questions, so that you have to keep seeking. And as you keep seeking, all you end up getting are more questions. It's not definitive, specific information. But when God gives revelation, it is specific. His word is specific. It gives us the information that we need for life, all things that pertain to life and godliness. It's specific in the general of living life. This is kind of interesting. If you're in a particular or specific situation that is not handled by the Word, specifically, other than the Word says to stay positive, continue to believe that God will take care of it, that you're a super conqueror, but you need a specific bit of information, a word of knowledge or a word of wisdom, so that you can manifest being a super conqueror in a situation, then God, by revelation, will give you that information that you need. Spiritual realities may be ascertained, even as sense, knowledge, facts may be analyzed. What's that word, ascertained?
Ascertained, to discover through examination or experimentation, to find out. And from Latin, it's 2 words, to and certain.
Okay. To find out would be a good... Are there any synonyms listed there, by the way? Does it tell you to go to some place to get synonyms?
No.
Okay. To find out would be good. Experimentation, in a sense knowledge fashion, would be good because you don't know, so you experiment and you find out. You put 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, it gets water. Examination is kind of not perhaps the right word to use here in light of spiritual realities. Go ahead, Evelyn.
There's a synonym here.
Okay.
See, learn.
Learn. Okay, that's not bad. Give me the definition, though, of ascertain in your dictionary.
To find out, definitely. Learn with certainty or assurance. Determine. That's number 1. Number 2 is archaic, to make certain, clear, or definitely know.
To make certain, clear, or definitely know. That's ascertain. Spiritual realities may be made certain, may be made clear, where you definitely know. See, it's not where you, like you think of, this is great. When you compare ascertain here to analyze, and you think of psychologists analyzing, okay, well, we got to take all this information, and we got to put all this data together, and we got to look at it, and then we got to say, well, now, what did you think next? And then what happened? And how did you feel? And what did you see? Oh, so it was in my dream, I saw a cat speaking to me. And what did the cat say? Right. Or something. It's perfect. Those commercials that are out now that talk about IBM, and it has the lady, and she goes, We're adrift. I feel lost, adrift, frustrated, or whatever it is. And so, oh, you have liquidity issues. No, we're at sea. And this is someone else's meeting. Does anybody hear me? And so she goes, what does it mean? That you're lost, adrift, and need help. He doesn't know. He's just trying to analyze. Well, God doesn't do that nonsense to us, where we're just floating around, not knowing what in the hell's going on. That's the devil spirit realm, to keep people confused, because, look at it. Without specific information, how can you act specifically? You can't. Something then has to control you. How do you like that? Ever think of that? Neither did I till now. In the true God's realm, he gives you specific information. Why? I'm talking Revelation now. Why? So that you can act on it. So that you can take specific action. In the devil spirit realm, you're not given, for the most part, they're isolated incidents, but for the most part, you're not given specific information. Why? So that you have to be controlled to get something done. The Spirit just gives you enough to open your mind where you want more. The devil spirit now I'm talking. Where you need and want more information, and then and you're at that open position. How do you like that? That American Express now wants to send you this business thing that's open. Open. Ha! It's devilish. I know that right now. It's devilish. Devil spirits gave whoever that information. Open? We don't have open minds. We have renewed minds. We control our minds. We're not open to the whim of American Express and the other devil spirits running Sandy Wheel and his other minions to man, oh man, or whoever's running it. I think it's still Sandy Wheel. Jewish fella, not born again of God's Spirit. Can't get revelation from the true God. Well, how do you end up being the top in multi-billion-dollar business situations? You either got to have help from the true God or the other fella. So open, you bet that's exactly what he was. Open to spirit possession. They talk about, well, I just go by gut in this situation. Gut? Is that specific? Boy, we got to watch that stuff. Gut? Do we go by some kind of hazy feel? Oh, no, because that would leave us open. What's open? Keep your finger. We're going to come to analyze this. Give me open. Open. Ha! I got your open.
Open. Ooh.
I know. Is it big?
Not closed. It's open. It's very big.
Okay, somebody read.
Not closed or barred at the time, as a doorway or passageway by a door. 2. Of a barrier or a door, set so as to permit passage through the opening, if otherwise closed. 3. Having no means of being enclosed. 4. Having the interior immediately accessible.
Having no means of being closed.
Of being enclosed.
Of being enclosed. Okay. Go ahead.
Having the interior immediately accessible as a drawer that is pulled out.
Whew.
5. Relatively free of obstruction, an open floor plan. 6. Constructed so as not to be fully enclosed, an open boat. 7. Having relatively large or numerous voids or intervals. Open ranks of soldiers. 8. Relatively unoccupied by buildings, fences, trees, etc., open country. 9. Extended or unfolded an open newspaper. 10. without restrictions as to who may participate in open competition. 11, available, accessible as for trade, which job is open. It's an open port. The store is open on Saturday. 12, not restricted as to the hunting of game, open season. 13, free from fraud. An open commercial or moral regulations, an open town. 15, undecided, unsettled, several open questions. 16, liable or subject, open to question. 17, receptive as to ideas. 18, exposed. 19, unreserved, candid or frank, as person or their speech, aspect, etc. 20, generous, liberal, or bounteous, to give with an open hand. 21, free of navigational obstructions or hazards, an open coast. 22, noting the part of the sea beyond headlands or enclosing areas of land. 23, print. A, of type in outline form. B, widely spaced or leaded as printed matter. 24, not yet balanced or adjusted as an account. 25, and
How many more of these are there?
oh man, this thing goes down to number 61.
What?
Yeah, that's how big open is.
Well, keep looking until you see a definition
Oh, I
that's
got
more
it.
along the lines. Okay, what do you have, Joyce?
Number 2, the definition is having no protecting or concealing cover, exposed, not sealed. And the 5th definition is accessible to all. And 6B is unprotected, vulnerable, open to attack, available.
That's a good one for the mind. Open to attack. Available. Available. So the adversary works on people's minds to get their minds open to attack. Vulnerable. Available. What were those definitions again? Read those 3 again, Jim.
Having no protecting or concealing cover,
Wow.
not sealed, accessible to all, unprotected, vulnerable, open to attack.
Yeah. So, that's not something that we want to have. See, man, oh man, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with Holy Ghost and with power. God anointed him with Holy Ghost and with power, who went about doing good. He wasn't controlled about doing. He went about. It's just amazing. Jesus Christ still used the best logic that he had in his mind from knowing the Word. He used his mind. Where can I go and speak the Word? Where can I go and teach people? And then he went there. And he spoke, he went. Go, went. He went. It's tremendous when we think about it. It's the same thing with our lives. God gives us the information, and then we go. We go. Whatever it is. We take action. We're not open to being led. We have to be very careful in the utilization of that. We're led by the Spirit primarily, mainly, first of all, by doing what? Believing the written Word. That's number 1, which involves reading it, studying it, putting it in our minds, and applying it. And God gives us plenty of room to do that. It's not where we're just walking around, God, tell me what to do. Should I take this job or should I take that job? Should I tie my shoes or leave them untied for the day? There's just it ain't even that fine of a line. You get up and you got a meeting somewhere, and the type of meeting will determine what kind of clothes you wear. So now, out of all those clothes that you have, yeah, there are times you get to a situation where you could use some input from God as to what suit would be the best for that particular day. But you already know you're going to wear a suit. You know, you're going to a business meeting. God, should I wear a suit or just my boxer shorts? I mean, there's a point where the mind, that's it, the mind is thinking, it's active, it's involved, because what you can know by your five senses, God expects you to know. That's how it stays out of the devil spirit realm. We are in using our minds, we are in practice, even in using our minds to gather sense, knowledge, facts, because it's work, it's effort, it's involvement. When we do that, we're literally practicing for how we'll receive revelation with one distinct difference. Spiritualities may be ascertained. Once we've used our mind, we've used our senses to gain information. That process, we've put that in process. The difference with revelation is that it's simply arrived at. He just tells us and then we know. But we're using our minds. Look, give me analyze now. This will fit now. Give me analyze. Definition of analyze.
Definition of analyze is to separate into parts or basic principles so as to determine the nature of the whole. Examine methodically.
Okay, break into parts and principles. Say it again.
To separate into parts or basic principles as to determine the nature of the whole. Examine methodically.
Examine methodically. Evelyn, what do you have?
To separate into constituent parts, determine the elements of, opposed to synthesize.
As opposed to synthesize it, just putting it together.
To examine critically, so as to give the essence of, to analyze upon, it goes on, let me see, synonyms: reduce, explicate.
Oh, say it loud now. Synonyms: reduce.
Synonyms are 1, reduce, and 2, explicate.
Okay. So you see the difference? Analyze. It's taking the thing apart to see what its little parts are, so you can go, oh, this is that. God says, no deal. You can't do that with revelation. He gives you the information, that's it. So you can't do that with revelation to find out, well now, how did this... But you try sometimes, I can see why, because see, I was going to go to the store, and so he told me this, and blah, 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 and then you do all that stuff so that you think you can figure out what to do with the information after you got it. You can't do that with revelation. Our senses can't go to the spirit realm and then track and trace in the spirit realm why this, why that, because you can't know what's in the spirit realm by your senses.
Right.
So you can't put it in a test tube. You can't put it on a Bunsen burner. Okay, let me break this into parts. Let me apply this dye to this and this little bit of this, and let's see what different pieces separate out. It doesn't work that way. God is spirit. He just gives you the information. Now, it may be instruction, see, informational, revelation, instruction. What was the other? The manifestations, knowing. For your knowing, your information, your instruction, revelation. It reveals so that you know, so that you're instructed. See, you could get instruction by revelation. But you still don't try to break that instruction into parts and say, well, oh, okay, I see why you said this, see. He said this. We don't go there with revelation. We do that with analysis of sense, knowledge, facts. But the first thing we do, see, is we analyze situations to the best of our knowledge of the Word. Of the Word, understand?
Yes.
As well as the best of our knowledge of principles that would fit with the Word. Even to analyze it sense knowledge-wise, we need to know the principles of the Word. Otherwise, you can analyze something sense knowledge-wise by sense knowledge information, and when you're done, you still don't know anything. All you know is what the world, the senses, have told you. Now, there are many principles that we were taught growing up. Tying our shoes, and some of these types of things that you You go back and go, well, now let's see. Is tying my shoes something that the Word says I should do? Okay. Well, I suppose you could go back to all those kinds of things and check out, well, should I tie my shoes or not tie my shoes? It sounds funny, but there are a lot of things we take for granted that may not fit according to the principles of the Word. Tying your shoes, however, you look and you go, okay, if I don't tie my shoes and I start walking and a shoelace catches on something and I trip and fall on my face, would that be a good thing according to the Word? Hurting myself, is that something God wants? No, He doesn't even want you to dash your foot against a stone, to stub your toe. So, we have to be thankful for what we were taught that is beneficial, that helps us, because it would certainly take a lot of time to go back and check every single thing in your life, like how to walk, how to stand, how to this, how to that. And yet there are a lot of things that we could investigate according to now the principles of the Word. Certainly getting into a business, certainly in sports we could check things out, couldn't we? Well, actually in every category of our lives we could examine, we could analyze according to the principles of the Word and see if those things have any basis in God's Word. But when it comes to spiritual realities, where God gives us information, we simply know it. And we know because we believe. We know by believing. He gives us the information, we believe it, and we know it. Righteousness falls into this category, see? God says you're righteous. What sense knowledge information do you have that would prove that? You really don't, with the exception of speaking in tongues and even speaking in tongues. You got to believe that what God says about it is what it is. You can't believe what man says about it that is foolishness, that is jabbering, or something like that. Of course, what some people do and call speaking in tongues is exactly that, jabbering. It's not speaking in tongues, see? Oh boy, so many things. Of course, the classic example from the class, ministering healing to someone. Doctors analyze. We never do. Doctors have to check, okay, what's the blood? Let me analyze the blood. Let me stick a tongue depressor back in your throat till you just about choke. Let's see what I can see back there. Let me look at your pupils, your iris, your whatever. Okay, let me grab your testicles and have you cough. Or various other things, which I won't go into, which they analyze to make sure of this, that, or the other. We, thank God, don't have to do that analysis when we're ministering healing to somebody. Why? Because God just gives us the information, and we don't care if it agrees with what your senses say. One fellow said to me the other day, well, I was getting ministered to, and I knew he was right. I knew he was getting revelation because of what I know by my senses. I think about that now, even now. I was thinking about it the other day and thinking, because he mentioned my blah, 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 and that's exactly what the doctor told me it was. Boy, if that's the way you set up your believing, you are just set up for a fall, because you're resting your believing based on what the doctor told you is wrong. So now someone ministers to you, and they mention something that the doctor said, therefore you know they're right. You better take it the other direction and go, maybe the doctor was right. Instead of, I know this believer that's ministering to me is right, is receiving revelation because of what I know by my senses. That's a direct contradiction of the principles we're taught in the foundational class. So you got to make up your mind. Is the doctor right, or are the principles of the Word right? Which way is it? Anything wrong with doctors? No. Doctors analyze, however. We don't analyze. We never analyze. So if we're getting ministered to, we either got to believe in the person ministering, that they're operating according to the Spirit of God, the principles of God's Word, and get healed, or find somebody else to minister to, get ministered to by, or something. Find someone else to minister to you. We don't go, that person didn't hit what I thought they should have hit, so I must not really be healed. We don't go, I don't feel better immediately, so I must not really be healed. Man, you know, it's really something, huh? We got to be believing in the person ministering. Otherwise, we don't ask him to minister. Or, we believe what the Word says, so we know that anyone ministering who knows how to operate the principles and the minister can take care of the situation. Sure, I know we at times have favorites of who we'd like to minister to us, all this kind of stuff. But see, we still then have our believing in the person and not in the Word. Now, I understand that. That's why in certain situations, someone can minister healing to someone and they get healed, someone else cannot, because they're not believing in the healing, the power of the Word. They're believing in the person and their ability to minister. Or they're analyzing whether or not this, boy, I think about that now and I just want to talk to that person. People have to have census things to tell them that someone's on the Word or not. You better have the Word to tell you, and your own operation of the manifestations of the Spirit to tell you. Not that what they say agrees with the senses. What did the Apostle Paul have from the senses to indicate to him that he shouldn't have gone to Jerusalem? Nothing. Everything looked fine to go to Jerusalem from a census standpoint. God kept telling him, don't go. He'd love to have someone give him some census information of why he should go, but God had said, don't go. The census seems, everything's fine. Why did he have a shipwreck then on his way to Jerusalem? Why wasn't the weather bad then to stop him from going then? Because the adversary wanted him to go to Jerusalem. That's why. All this, the true God saying, don't go, don't go, don't go, and he keeps going. The adversary knows by this point he has total free reign to set everything up to get to the Apostle Paul. So at that point, the adversary just makes he doesn't mess with the weather, so the weather's just fine. He doesn't stick his hand in it. There's no hurricane stopping the Apostle Paul then. No typhoons. No donkeys falling over dead while he's saying, get up, I got someone. Everything's just wonderful. Boy, when people start going by, well, I knew it was God because everything worked out perfectly. I had no challenges along the way. So Jesus Christ dying on the cross wasn't of God because it was difficult. That's that mealy-mouthed, mumble-thumb Christian baloney. That everything worked out so beautifully and simply, therefore it must have been God. That ain't why it's God. It's God if the Word says so, or God by revelation says so, then it's God. Otherwise, senses does not indicate that it's God or not. Right?
Right.
Now we got to keep this thing sharp, because we can get in that kind of mode where, well, everything's working out, so it must be God. What if it wasn't working out? You would still be more than a what?
Conqueror.
Well, what's the point of being more than a conqueror if you never have anything to conquer? Why would he say that? We know we have things to conquer because tribulation, remember? Mental pressure, pressures of life. It's a part of living every day. But also a part of living every day is being a super conqueror no matter what the situation is. Napoleon never lost a battle. Did he ever get stuck with a knife or stabbed, shot with an arrow? He did. One of his great battles where he fearlessly ran up put a ladder there and started going right up the side of a wall to inspire his troops. As soon as he gets up on the ladder, he gets shot with an arrow. Now he could have said, this can't be of God. Well, in his case, who knows what God. But, I just got shot. This can't be of God. I'm not more than a conqueror. He won. They got him down. yanked the arrow out, patched him up. But he went up there and fought, see? That's kind of neat when you think about it. What about us? So we're going for it, man. We're out there, and you get something happens that's negative. Does that mean you're no longer a super conqueror? Heck no. Yank the arrow out, keep fighting. I was just reading it because I started to look up again. I should go maybe through all the interviews. That'll take a lot of time. But in going through the interviews of these players, the champion women players at Wimbledon, it'll be the same on the men's side. Over and over and over, you see focus used. Focus. I had to focus. You got to focus. Well, boy, it looks like if you keep winning, you'll be playing so-and-so in the finals. I can't think about that right now. I have to focus on my next match. Then they talk about, boy, if you win this match, you will have finally broken your streak of losing, or you'll be up, blah, 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 9-4 in the times you've met. I can't think about that right now. I got to focus in my match on every point. See? On every game. Then if they push them on games, then they go back, the champions go back and go, well, I have to focus point by point. Oh, well, if you win enough points, I have to focus on my serve getting in, my first serve getting in. I have to focus on returning every serve. They get it down to point by point what they have to focus on. Now, I know, Chuck, you know other sports more than tennis. What are some of the other sports you know real well where those principles are the case?
I guess it would be martial arts, boxing.
Okay. Boxing, okay. What do they have to focus on in boxing?
Well, it's the same principle that throughout the martial arts is the concentration and focus of a punch. We were taught you don't punch at someone's nose. You punch through their nose. You focus at the point behind their nose. And whatever is entailed in focus. I remember when I was, into bodybuilding, building muscle as a teenager. Focus on each movement that you made. Concentrate on the movement, not what you were doing as a whole, but on each repetition.
So concentrate on the movement. Now, does that apply to bowel movements?
Well, you have to concentrate.
That's great. Focus on the point behind, through the goal, through the situation, all the way on the other side. And breaking bricks, they say that, don't you? You focus through.
You picture the brick broken, and your hand moving through the space.
Tremendous. Looks like you looked up the word focus, Evelyn. Did you?
Yes.
And what does it say?
It says, physics, there's a physics, there's an optics, and which one do you want? Physics, a point, or, especially British, cusp, at which rays or light, heat, or other radiation meet after being refracted or reflected. And then there's optics, which has to do with lens, geometry. One of...
Well, what's optics?
Optics, A, the focal point of a lens. B, the focal length of a lens. C, the clear and sharply defined condition of an image. D, the position of a viewed object or the adjustment of an optical device necessary to produce a clear image in focus, out of focus. 3, a central point as of attraction, attention, or activity, focal point. 4, geometry, one of the points from which the distance to any point of a given curve are in a linear relation. 5, the starting place of an earthquake. It's called focus.
Oh.
6, payphone. The primary center from which the primary center from which a disease develops or in which it localizes. And 7 is to bring to a focus or into focus. To focus the lens of a camera. 8, to concentrate. Here's our definition. To concentrate, to focus one's thoughts. To become focused.
To concentrate, to focus one's thoughts. Concentrate as opposed to dissipate. Okay. To concentrate, to focus one's thoughts. So that would be to bring one's thoughts to a
Point.
To a point. Great. So to bring one's thoughts to a point, or if it's visual, you would see a certain point, whether it's beyond something physical in your way, whether it's at something physical. I imagine then if you're sparring, then they picture, they focus at the object instead of through the object. And that way,
it wouldn't be sparring.
right. So there's a difference in focus. The energy is the same. The technique would be the same. The only difference would be where the focus was. I would imagine that in the martial arts. Is that correct?
Yeah, because then you would be probably killing them.
Right.
Instead of practice.
Instead of practice. Wow. Okay. Wait. What's concentrate? It says to concentrate one's thoughts. What do you have for focus, Chuck?
For focus, I have adjustment or distinctness or clarity, a center of interest.
Wait,
or
adjustment?
Yeah, adjustment for.
Oh, for. Okay, adjustment for
Distinctness or clarity.
distinctness or clarity. Go ahead.
A center of interest or activity.
A center of interest or activity.
To produce a clear image.
Wow. Okay.
To concentrate on.
To concentrate. Okay, what else you got? Evan, what do you have for concentrate?
I have for concentrate
And this should be the verb form.
the verb transitive.
Yep.
1. To bring or draw to a common center or point of union.
To bring or draw to a common center of point or union. Go ahead.
Or point of union.
Point of union. Okay.
Focus, to concentrate one's attention on a problem.
Say it loud. Say it again.
Okay, focus, to
No,
concentrate.
just the last one. Just the last. You got soft. You got quiet at the last. Go ahead.
To concentrate one's attention on a problem, to concentrate the rays of the sun with a lens.
To concentrate one's attention. So to concentrate thoughts has been used. To concentrate attention has been used. Go ahead.
To put or bring into a single place, group, etc.
So to bring your attention to a single place, that would be rather than multiple places. See it?
Mm-hmm.
That would be distraction. We need to look that up too to see the opposite. And dissipate as opposed to concentrate. So we're going to look up also distraction and dissipate. Remember that. Okay, what's next?
To intensify, make denser, stronger, etc.
To intensify, make denser, stronger, etc. Okay. Is that it?
To come to or toward a common center, converge, collect. To bring all efforts, faculties, activities, etc. to bear on one thing or activity. Okay.
Wow. That's really something. Say that last one again, Evelyn.
To come to or toward a common center, converge, collect. To bring all efforts, faculties, activities, etc. to bear on one thing or activity.
Yeah, that's a magnificent definition of focus. I need to add that to my book where I've done some work on this already. Okay, let's see what concentrate is. What do you have?
To direct or draw toward a common center, focus. To converge toward a center. To direct one's thoughts or attention, often used with, on, or upon.
To direct one's thoughts or attention. So even sense knowledge-wise, people know that it's possible to direct, so concentrate, to direct one's thoughts or attention. You've got to have control of your thoughts, as Bishop Casey Pillai says. You have to have control of your thoughts to be able to direct them. Okay, so we have concentrate.
This verse was it?
We wanted
Distract.
Yes, distraction and instead of and dissipate instead of concentrate.
Okay,
DISS is how you spell dissipate.
Yeah.
It takes two S's. So who's looking up what?
I'm doing dissipate.
Okay. What are you doing?
Distract.
Distraction. Instead of got it yet, or should I turn this off? All right. Go ahead. Which word is it? Go ahead.
Dissipate. To drive away or dispel by or as in disappearance. Rout. Scatter. To exhaust or expend. Intemperately. To waste. Squander. To vanish by dispersion. Disappear. To indulge or to indulge in intemperate pursuit